Hi, I'm Chuck Dorsett from Weaver Leather Supply, and this is the Leather Element. If you've got a good question for us or a good idea for a leather element, drop it in the comment box below. Also, if you want to know when our videos release, just click your notifications. You'll know exactly when these come out. So when I got a start in leathercraft, we didn't have social media. There were very few avenues to gain knowledge about leather working. Well, I had the motivation. I just didn't have the information. So for the folks that are new, or wanting to get into leathercraft, here's some basic tricks and tips, things I wish I knew in the beginning. I hope this will help you out. But a big point with leathercraft, you're going to be amazed at what you can do with a few basic skills and a couple of simple tools. I guarantee it. All right, so let's start with the first step in any project. Let's cut our leather. And there is nothing difficult about cutting leather, but there's a couple of tricks that's going to help us get off on the right foot with our project. So in most all videos, I always say new blade or sharp blade every time. That's absolutely key. Now, when I started out, like I said, little information, went to my toolbox. Box knife was the first thing I pulled out, and I use this to this day. And I use it for a couple of reasons. Well, first off, I'm not great at sharpening a blade. I can, but not to the point I need for a good cut. These blades are inexpensive, they're quick and easy to change out, but they're very sharp. And to me, that's a very natural position for my hand. Best part here, retractable blade. I've just gotten in the habit of retracting my blade when I put that down. No open blade on my table. Now, the round knife or the head knife, iconic leathercraft tool, absolutely. This is actually 3 tools in one. We can cut, we can edge, and we can skive. But in all honesty, I love my box knife. Now, new blade or sharp blade every time. Here's a great example of what's going to happen if we have a dull blade. So I'm going to drag that across, and now I can hear that blade trying to cut through the flesh of that leather. Well, now I've made about 6 passes. I'm still not through this. Well, what's happening? My tendency now is to really press down on that leather. I'm going to get a squirrely cut. So, again, new blade or sharp blade every time. I don't even have to really press down, and I get a very clean, very square cut. Now, the second part of this, our poundo board. What's happening is I'm actually cutting through the leather and into this board. This is a rehealable board. So again, I get a very square cut. In the beginning, I was cutting on plywood. Well, my blade stops where the wood starts, and again, we get a very rough cut. Last point, and I think this is the best point I can bring up, this is non-slip tape. We sell a square with the tape on the back. This is just the tape they use on, say, hospital steps. But with this, well, first off, very slick on my top grain. So when I make a cut, it's going to fade on me. With the non-slip tape, I don't even have to press down, and that square is not moving. Another great point here. That actually raises the height of our square. Here's what I'm talking about, and this is what's happened to me in the past. If this is very shallow, very thin, it's very easy for us to jump the edge, and we're going to stop right in our thumb. I've actually got a square with a cut that stops about right there. We don't want that to happen. So adding a little extra height to our square, big point. And one more, I like to take that tape right up to the edge. We sell the tape, but like right here, on my long straight edge, I'm going right to the edge because that's going to pin that leather between my square and my poundo board. So we're going to get a perfect clean cut every time. Once I have a project cut, my next step always, I'm going to do my edge work. Now, it's a small detail, but it makes all the difference in the outcome. Here's what I'm talking about. So I've got a billet here. That looks pretty good, finished, ready to go. But once we add our groove and our edge, makes all the difference. That to me looks very finished. 2 simple tools to use. Now on our groover, technically the job here is to groove a line in the edge of our leather so that we have a guide for our chisel, but also our stitch line is going to sink down into that groove. It's going to keep it from snagging or grabbing. Well, it's an easy tool to use. I typically set mine at 1/8 of an inch. We see this in a number of videos, but all we're going to do here, I'm going to put this right on the edge of my leather. Here's our guide bar. There's our cutting head. So I'm going to put that right on the edge of my leather. I'm going to give it a little counterclockwise pressure, and there we go. Not a tough tool to master, but again, it makes all the difference. Well, right here, We've got a belt, no groove, no edge. Well, it doesn't look bad, but when we step over to a grooved edge, all the difference. In fact, right here, if we're going to use an antique, that antique's going to sink down in that groove line and it's going to make it stand out. So I'll use that when I'm hand sewing, but I'll also use that on every edge. Now our edger, this is a number 2. That's good for our 8 to 9 ounce, 7 to 8, 9 to 10. But all I'm going to do here, same thing. I'm going to bring this up about 40 degrees and out about 40 degrees. And there we go, it's as easy as that. So now we have a rounded edge there. That edge is not going to dog ear on us. But what I would suggest, let's do all 4 sides. The back is always a little bit harder to edge, but good. So now we can take this edge, we can wet it, and we can slick it. And again, the outcome is all the difference in the world. When I started out in leathercraft, the first rivet I used was a pop rivet. What an absolute mess. That is not the rivet for leathercraft. Well, in our defense, we can find those at most any hardware store. But the problem, first off, they don't look very good. But secondly, when we clip off that post, now we've got a sharp edge on our project. We don't want that. My best advice here, let's go straight to a double cap rivet. They're easy to set. We've got multiple finishes. So now we can tie in our rivet with our hardware, our buckles, our conchos. But also, we've got a cap on the back, which I like because that to me looks a little more professional. But also, we've got a crimp in the post. That allows us to snap the cap on it without setting it. That can be a big help, all right? So some notes on our double caps. Well, we've got 3 sizes. Right here, I've got the 2 most common weights of leather in my shop. 4 to 5 ounce, good pouch weight. 8 to 9 ounce, good belt weight. We can do most anything with these 2 weights. So on our sizing, we've got 3 sizes, small, medium, and large technically. 1/4 inch, 5/16, 7/16. So on our smallest, that's just right for 2 8 to 9 or 2 4 to 5s back to back. Medium, 2 8 to 9s. Largest, 3 8 to 9s. Now, if I get 10 questions from folks that say they're having trouble with double caps, 10 out of 10 times, it's because we've got too much leather. Here's what I'm talking about. So let's take our large and go through 2 4 to 5s. Notice how much post I have sticking up above that leather. I've set tens of thousands of rivets, but when I go to set that, it's going to offset. It's going to make a big mess. So let's go with a rivet that's going to give us no more than 1/8 of an inch post above our top grain. Now, one more point. Let's go with a smaller hole. So let's go with a medium right here. I want to punch a smaller hole, and this will make sense, because when my rivet goes in, it's a little bit snug. So therefore, to me, that's going to be a better, more durable bite. But also another point, and I've overcut a hole right here to make this point. So with a rivet, right there, if I'm going to try to set that, there we go. Notice how much play I've got in that rivet. I can go almost 3/8 of an inch off. So that means it's going to be tough to line up our projects. With a smaller hole, that's no issue. So again, the double cap, this is the best rivet going. When I got a start in leathercraft, this is information I really could have used. Had no idea what type of leather, what cut of leather. What I did know, I can't drop $300 on a piece of leather. We don't have to. Well, let's start right here because in my opinion, the natural veg tan is the perfect place to start. So the tannery basically has said, we're going to tan this leather up to this point. From there, it's up to you. Okay, we will take that challenge and rise to it because now we can stamp, tool, wet form. We can dye this in the color of our choice. We can add antique. We can paint, top coat, yeah, and the list goes on and on. So it's a great place to get a start. Well, on our cuts of leather, we've got 2 cuts here. This is called a belly. Great for when we're starting out for the simple reason that I don't want to worry about cutting into an expensive piece of leather, making a mistake. Now I've wasted that money. This is inexpensive enough to where we can dive in and have a great time with it. Now, when we step up, this is called a single shoulder. It's a little bit more expensive, but still very affordable to us. But notice now, we're getting a nice big piece of leather. On the weights, in my opinion, we've got 2 weights that I always keep in my shop, 8 to 9 ounce and a 4 to 5 ounce. So 4 to 5, that's a good pouch weight, lighter weight projects. 8 to 9 ounce, heavier projects, all kinds of odds. holsters, scabbards, saddlebags. So many places we can go with this, but in my opinion, let's start with either a 4 to 5 or an 8 to 9 ounce. And in fact, I still keep bellies in my shop simply because from time to time, I need, say, a 6 to 7 ounce leather. I don't use that very often, but I keep a belly in my shop. It's inexpensive enough. I don't worry about it. So now when I need a piece of 6 to 7, I jump over, I take out what I need, I roll that up, and I go back to my project. So even for those of us with a little experience, the bellies can be a big help. But again, very affordable, high quality cuts of leather. Dive into leathercraft and have a great time with it. You're not going to believe what you're capable of. Now, the reason I say that is because if I can do this, I bet you can do it better. I hope this is good information for you. Thanks for taking time to watch The Leather Element. Good luck with your project.